I really won't be able to see it. Be able to see who's in here and stuff. What's up, Brian? How's it going, man? I don't know why this thing be online. We'll get started here in a minute. Just give everything time to get caught up. If you hear any issues or a little too loud or loud enough, now's the time to let me know. Outside of that, be too far gone.
Be too late.
What's up, Rich? How's it going, man? This is Chuck. Chuck is the old partner in all this. Nice. Was that really your mom earlier, Brian? I thought we were doing like the Russell Wilson joke, like Russell Wilson's Chuck.
What's up? What's up?
He used to break with us once, twice a week, and he moved to the fancy part of the state, and now here we are.
Well, I want to get back over there and do some more breaks. It's been a while for sure. We always have a good time in the ECB studios.
What's up, Grant? How's it been, man? Grant, you're the one that lives in South Carolina. My daughter plays down there about once a month. About to go to a local um, juice bar and have a few beverages. So you just let me know what you think. There it is. All right. I think I got Twitch. No, so Fantasy Pros like 2 hours ago approved us. I don't really. I just think they want their name out there. So we kind of got sponsorship from them. I got a free account. I've actually used Fantasy Pros in the past, just because. Thanks for the like, Jules. Appreciate it.
Well, that's pretty awesome that they gave you a little sponsorship there.
Yep. Um, we'll get into linking people's codes later. Just so you guys know that I will go back through and track everything. So all you have to do is like, love, comment, any of that good stuff. Then kind of interact throughout the stream. Don't just say hey and take off and stuff like that. So I will, and if we have to reward, currently there's 32 NFL spots. So if we get a one-word sniper, um, they'll be moved to the bottom of the list. And if we have more than that, hopefully we do. Hopefully we have to do two breaks, but just hang out with us. Kind of the first one we've done, or first one we've done this year. We done one last year, but we were able to that was kind of during the lull of COVID, and we're able to kind of get together. But in all honesty, it's actually a little bit easier to do it like this because I don't have to get into 10 microphones, multiple cameras, his headset interfering with mine. It is a lot simpler this way, but not quite the same either. So,
Yeah, I'd potentially be down for maybe sitting in on some breaks as well in the future in this format.
yep. So like I say, it's much, 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 much easier. So, all right, guys, we'll kind of just, I guess, go through here and just talk about everything that we're going to go over. So we're going to go through top quarterbacks, and we're going to do a sleeper. I done mine outside of like top 20. That'll be in the top 10. I think he did his also as well.
Pretty
Um,
close. Yeah.
and I'll kind of explain what you're seeing on the Pros screen. Uh, what you guys are seeing on the Fantasy Pros screen. So we'll go top quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight ends, top rooks, and like formats like best ball, vampire leagues, PPR standard. I would just kind of talk about those and kind of give a little bit of an explanation of them. Leagues are getting super crazy. One league that I want to try out next year is called a handicap league. Uh, So everybody's tiered, and you have to draft from this list of set tier players. Like I'll give you an example. Like Christian McCaffrey is one of the worst players you could get, but somebody has to draft it. Just because he has, it's like golf. He has a massive, massive handicap. Like he has to get to like 20 points before he starts to break even. And as where like a player like Chuba Hubbard is sitting at 0, who has he's one of the first couple round players taken. And then you can get into players that have like the idea is for everybody to start off at 0 to 0. So it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot to keep up with. I wanted to do it this year, but just the scheduling and stuff, I didn't get to do it. So that's kind of what we're going to go through. So I'll kind of explain how Fantasy Pros work. Fantasy Pros is literally the one that I've used forever. And the reason that I like them, I don't know if you can see, not showing my mouse cursor. We're doing customized. It allows you to do customized tiers. You can take like Fantasy Pros rankings, then you can put in your own like criteria, and it spits all this back out. One thing that Chuck knows that I preach every time is plus minus. Don't look at who's the best player, who is the best player with the largest gap between his counterparts. And that's typically your best player. I'll give you a good example of that. JJ in Chuck's league, it's an IDP league. So independent defensive players. So a few years ago, JJ Watt, per this formula, was the #1 player in fantasy football. Just because out of a defensive end, you'll be lucky to get 100 points. That's a good season. This is when he had like 7 touchdowns and like 5th in tackles. And he was literally almost times 2.5 higher than the next closest guy to him. So that's why that this keep it in the lanes here, Chung Wei. So that's why JJ Watt was in this formula was considered the best player in fantasy. So again, it's I've done well in pretty much all of my fantasy leagues using that. So that's something you guys kind of check out too. But we'll go ahead and start here. We'll start with quarterbacks. I got it set on PPR. I think most people use PPRs. I kind of miss standard somewhat sometimes, but then I really don't. I like the introspect of it too. So I'll kind of read through my list here first on quarterbacks who I have in the top 5, and then we're going to really spend more of the time on kind of the sleepers, because I'm pretty sure if you're not drafting Patrick Mahomes as QB1, then maybe you should watch a few more fantasy shows. So my 1 through 5 is Mahomes. Wilson through the first 4 or 5 games last year was easily going on par to be in that top 2 or 3 range. And it's like he couldn't get a good defense. Then he got a good defense. Then they couldn't. Then the offense wasn't what it was. So they could never really find that balance. I think with the extra year of probably what may be the best wide receiving core in the NFL. With his improved line, I think he finished 7th, 8th last year. So I think he finds his way into second. Kyler Murray, I don't love the pick, but I just think his running games provides too many options. I think there's no better version of Aaron Rodgers than a pissed off version of Aaron Rodgers. And Herbert, I think sophomore slumps are real. But that being said, I still have him 5th, so I don't know how real it is. For my quarterback outside the top 10, he's actually 33rd in most ADPs. Is Jameis Winston. Me and Chuck actually talked about this for a little bit. This is a guy that before at Tampa, when he had 804 interceptions, he was still a top 10 quarterback. And let's say he cuts those in half. Then you get away from those so many -2s. I mean, if Jameis Winston was a top 5 quarterback this year, I wouldn't be surprised. The only thing that scares me a little bit is Taysom Hill getting those goal line carries, those 5 to 8% of the plays taking him away. If not, if there was a betting odd on Jameis being in the top 5, I would take that bet every time. So I think he's definitely worth a flyer. I wouldn't draft him as to be your quarterback one because I don't think you have to make that choice unless you're in the double quarterback league. Um, I think Jameis after about the 12th, 13th round in most leagues, I think he's definitely worth a look. So I think you're going to be far enough down that you can get him. But that's kind of my top five with my sleeper there. Chuck, what do you got?
Well, I'll just piggyback on that Jameis Winston piece. I think that he's definitely a good bet to potentially be in that top 10. It's just going to depend on, that wide receiving crew there. Marquez Callaway has been the darling of the preseason by far, I think. But also going up against, second stringers and third stringers and things like that. We'll see if he can continue. How quickly does Mike Thomas come back? But like you said, when Jameis had those 840 interceptions, he also had 50 touchdowns or something along that. It was like a 50-50 club or something crazy. And Sean Payton will sling it. We'll see. Of course, Mahomes are number one. I think Allen has corrected all of his issues in his first couple years, and is there to show that he can be a top 3 quarterback. And I think Herbert. I think he is he's got a great cast to throw to. There was a sophomore slump, but I don't know. I think that he's going to continue to go on. He's got a great run game, and not the best defense in the world, so he's going to have the opportunities to be out there and throwing it. Right there with you on Murray. I'm not, I personally am going to try to stay away from him if possible. I've got the 4th pick in a super flex 2 QB league, so I'm afraid it's going to come down to choosing between him, Herbert, and Lamar. I think Murray and Lamar are pretty close. It just scares me with those running quarterbacks and them staying healthy. You talk about Wilson. I don't know. We'll see. Dak Prescott was lighting up the league and was on pace to break all these records through 4 or 5 weeks too, and then got hurt. So we'll see. My person I think that can sneak into the top 10 is the rookie Zach Wilson. The Jets are going to Jets, but also not a good defense. He's got some fast guys to throw to. Elijah Moore, who's been hurt the whole preseason, could be a sneaky good rookie wide receiver. They paid Corey Davis a boatload of money to come up there. He's looked good in the preseason. I think Zach Wilson has the potential to sneak into the top 10 as well.
All right, we'll go through and read through some of the comments here. Just a reminder, guys, you do have to if you're on like and just comment. That's all you have to do. So if you haven't hit the like, heart, love, any of those on Facebook, YouTube, whatever it is, go ahead and do that. And then all your comments we can see. So I'm going to go back through and kind of go over some of the comments here. Jason was talking about Josh Allen. I think maybe I'm too much stuck on the year, not last year, but the previous year of Josh Allen. Was that the wide receiver difference, or is that the real Josh Allen? I do love his running game. Everybody does. But Josh scares me a little bit. Mr. Hill said, no way interception Winston is top 5 or top 10. I would absolutely, if there's a shoe-in bet in fantasy this year, I'm going to bet that's the shoe-in fantasy. I would take whatever the odds are and give me that. Because, when Winston was coming out, Winston is one of the top 3 or 4 arm talents that I've ever seen. The guy can absolutely make any throw, any NFL throw, but as where he's a 10 with his arm, he's 1 with his mental, right? Like he's probably the most helter-skelter quarterback that I ever remember in the NFL in my lifetime. This guy had a 96-mile-an-hour fastball. You hear him talk about Mahomes' throw, like the guy threw like 86. He has the unbelievable arm talent. Now, again, that don't make you quarterback, but you throw for 5,000 yards, 48 touchdowns, and have 32 interceptions, your fantasy value is through the roof. So, no, Jeff, this isn't a handicap league. Those are pretty ridiculous. So
Yeah, I don't think you can draft Tom Brady as one of the top five QBs off the bat there. These any mixture of these 7 to 8 guys is going to score higher than Brady does. And I say that as a former Brady owner last year, the year before. He has not kept up to a top 5 performing quarterback. He'll, be in your top 10. It just depends. He is aging a bit. I don't think there's any way that he's a top 5 fantasy
yep.
point quarterback.
Yep. And Mr. Brad asked, should I keep Dak in my keeper leagues? I heard some bad things, but I think they just keeping it hush hush. Dak really scares the piss out on me. That's why I didn't put him in my top 5. Because you look at what happened to Brady coming off a major injury. I mean, that's really the top tier quarterback. That's the last time that I can remember it happening, like a major, major injury. I know Aaron Rodgers got injured 3 or 4 games, and even Tom Brady, there was a 4 or 5 game start that he wasn't very good. And now he obviously he recovered from it, but in a fantasy season, you're talking what, 13, 14 games for the playoffs, and he's already hurt. There's right here on they have him as the 5th, the second tier. There's no way I would put him. I mean, for me, he would fall somewhere around 8th or 9th right now. And I feel that that's probably pretty fair. And Grant, this will be the last one on this. Then we'll start on the wide receivers. Thoughts on Baker? I've always loved Baker. Even when he was bad, I feel like his confidence is kind of wins the locker room over. It's kind of that Conor McGregor, just brash bravado, load my balls up in a wheelbarrow and bring them to practice, and I'll see you there. It's just that's the way he is, and I think people follow him. But he's always had that tendency to roll out of the pocket to the right when things break down. But he could be a top 10 quarterback. So he's got enough weapons around him. That team's good enough, but they really like to lean on the run. So that's probably why I would keep him out of the top 10. Probably put him somewhere. Yeah, I was going to say somewhere around 16, 17. Fantasy Pros has him at 18. So we'll go ahead and go on to the wide receivers here. I'll read through my list first. Adams, again, I feel like this year more so than most, those number one, the wide receiver 1, running back 1, quarterback 1s is as clearly defined as they've ever been. I think, again, back to that Rodgers quote, there's no better Aaron Rodgers than a pissed off Aaron Rodgers. So I think we both went Adams there. And I feel like it's got to be a no-brainer. So if you're going wide receiver 1, it needs to be on Adams. Ridley is another, probably outside of, I think, where do they got him? Yeah, I mean, they got him 5, so it's not crazy on here. Ridley, I mean, with Jones being gone, Pitts, who I'm not as high on as most people are, I think really gets all those touches. He's great at PPR. He's going to have probably 100 to 110 catches in that range. I don't know about the red zone targets, but I think in a PPR, he's a big pickup. Tyreek Hill's speed's unlimited. Just little concerned about how many balls there is to go around there. Brown, I think was it Janu? What was the tight end's name there?
Jonnu Smith.
Yeah. With all those guys being gone, I feel like that with John or Julio being there, I feel like it takes off enough of the pressure that AJ will get a lot of man coverage. He is an absolute man beater. Not meat, but man. Justin Jefferson, this is the guy I'm going to harp on this. Justin Jefferson had the best rookie wide receiver season ever. This guy is absolutely phenomenal. He had almost, 1,600 yards?
14.
I know, it was 15. It was like 1538.
Was it?
Yeah. I can make sure here. But anyways, he had a lot of damn yards. I mean, the only thing about it was, well, that may be his projections. I don't remember. Anyways, he had a lot of yards.
1,400 yards last year.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Was it 7 touchdowns?
7 touchdowns. So you might see that increase a bit. They
Yeah.
like being in the end zone.
Yep. So that was kind of that was the only thing that I think held him back from even being higher than that was his touchdowns. Um, I mean, one of the things that I pulled up on him was he only had 6 catches for 72 yards in his first 2 games combined. But over the next 14 weeks, he's averaged 5.9 catches, 95 yards per week, and maintained 11.2 yards per target. That's absurd. Like, that's an absurd stat. That's not catch. That's target. So and down the stretch after those first couple weeks, he was a top 2 or 3 wide receiver. I had Devontae Smith as kind of my sleeper. I think they've got him somewhere around 23 or 24, maybe lower than that. Appreciate the likes, guys. Apologize I didn't catch the earlier one. Thank you, Grant. I think he's another PP like in that Ridley mold, which probably more athletic. What's up, Carl? So I think Smith could be a monster in PPR. I think he's a guy that could probably push 85 to 90 catches. Again, the red zones with Ertz and Goddard. I think maybe those get taken away a little bit from him, but I think those guys I think he's a good pickup, probably somewhere around round 6, 7, in that range. I think he has, especially if you're in the keeper league, he's going to have a little more value in a dynasty league, obviously being a little bit younger. Chuck, we had the same first there, so
Yeah, no need to harp on Adams. I think he's clear cut number 1. Can't believe you disrespecting my man Diggs that won me a big money league last year. It was funny. I turned it off. I was so far down in that game, and I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to watch this and get my hopes up. And then all of a sudden, chat starts blowing up. You did it with his like 40-point game or whatever. So I got to give the man some respect here. He was wide receiver 3 last year in PPR format. I don't think it's going to get any worse, barring a Josh Allen injury or something. He was huge down the stretch, and I think that is what has helped propel Josh Allen is having a true number 1 wide receiver there. Hill there, I'm not a KC fan, obviously, but I think he's going to get open. He's going to get the looks. They're going to find ways to get the ball to him. Health, he always gets dinged up here and there. We'll see how much he can make it. I think DK Metcalf, you got Wilson as number 2 of your QB. QB is going to have to throw it to somebody. Tyler Lockett's there, but he's getting older, probably about to lose a step. DK Metcalf is a specimen. I think he is going to take another step forward. He's already going in maybe that tier 2. I can't see where he's up there on the Fantasy Pros list, but I think he's a tier 2, probably 7th or 8th. But I think he's going to take
him 7th.
Hopkins, Jefferson, he's great too, but I think he regresses a little bit this year. Thielen is getting a little bit older. I think Jefferson is going to see a lot more double teams and moving that safety over on him. So I think Hopkins is going to continue to be great there. I mean, you got old man AJ Green to throw to, Christian Kirk. I'm big on Rondale Moore in Arizona this year too, the rookie, but I still think Hop is going to be Hop and is going to be there and be a top 5 wide receiver in PPR formats. Yeah, my person that I feel is going to break the top 10 is a little bit of a homer pick is Brandon Ayuk. Saw a stat when I was doing some research for this show that like from weeks 3 to 12 or 13, he was wide receiver 9. And that's with the likes of Beathard and the other Nate Mullins or whatever his name is. the backup quarterbacks, the worst of the worst, throw into him. Yeah, he had some stone hands this past weekend, but that's also a little bit on Lance slinging the ball too hard at him, in my opinion, which I think eventually Lance will step in this year, probably because of Garoppolo injury. But I think that he definitely has the possibility with his yak and breaking tackles that he can slide into the top 10 as well. You can call me a homer all you want, Chung Wei. At least I'm not saying Sam Darnold's going to be the number one quarterback in the chat.
He ain't wrong.
you
All
got
right.
your Arnold jersey on?
No, I couldn't find it. I got Kelvin Benjamin. Biscuit.
He's had plenty of biscuits.
Yeah, Biscuit away from being a linebacker. All right, so we'll go through the comments here a little bit. Carl said, "What's up?" Brian was asking, "Do you guys think Trevor Lawrence is going to do good in the NFL?" I think he's absolutely going to kill it. It's just, I don't know if Urban Meyer is meant to be an NFL coach. I watched their game, and I mean, he was still like 9 of 13, and the guy had like a half a second to get rid of the ball. Like, I mean, I don't know what. And every play they run was like a 5-step drop, long scheme, developing play. Like, you can't punish. I mean, when your line is a joke and you know they're a joke, get the ball out quick. Just run the ball. Just keep trying to eat up clock. Let the guy build his confidence. One guy I always remember back to, I don't want to get the cars wrong. Was it David, the older brother?
David Carr, yeah.
Yeah, the guy that got sacked like 600 times a year. That guy, I thought he could have been a good NFL quarterback, but they killed his confidence. They made him gun shy in the pocket. Now, obviously, comparing probably what's a decade talent to David Carr is probably not is laughable, but
the same could happen.
Yeah, I mean, you know, your line matters, your weapons matter. I know they put ETN on the season-ending injury. Little advice for you folks in the Dynasty League with the IR spot. Look for this guy around mid 14, 15. Could be a good pickup for you in the next year. But I mean, I just don't know if Myers. I think Myers one of the greatest college coaches ever, but everything I've seen said no, that this isn't going to work in the NFL. So, I mean, I like Trevor Lawrence. I like that he's a local ACC guy. I mean, he had arguably the best freshman college quarterback season that I've seen. Like, that guy was better as a freshman than he ended up being. What would he leave his junior year? Yeah, because he was he was never red-shirted. So, but I mean, the guy has all the talent in the world. If he don't figure it out, it won't be because of him. It'll be because of what's around him. So, and we've seen with the GOAT Sam Darnold how what's around you matters. So, all right, we'll go over to Facebook. Chung Wei still, I think he's on Quaaludes or something. I don't really know at this point. Richard Wilson's give me his top 5: Adams, Hill, Metcalf, Jefferson, Brown. I think we're pretty much saying we may vary in our order. Well, that and Riley. Mr. Hill says Adam, Hopkins, Brown, Hill, Metcalf. My top 5. Sleeper Robbie Anderson.
I was this close to picking Robbie as my top 10. This close. It came down to my Homer and scarlet and gold glasses versus my silver and teal glasses. But I think Robbie's going to have a great year.
Yeah, that's another one that if Darnold doesn't do well, I'm not saying he has to throw for 4,800 yards and 42 touchdowns because there's weapons there. McCaffrey being back, the line's not great. They're okay, but there's enough weapons there. I would say outside, they probably have a top 5 wide receiving core group-wise in the NFL. And if you consider McCaffrey a wide receiver, they may be in the top 2 or 3 because he's hands down the best wide receiver back. Then you have Moore, Anderson. I mean, there's just a lot of talent there on catching the ball. And Chad, God almighty, I'm going to pistol whip you, 49. Chad said only 49ers fans count. Keenan and Herbie says Grant Wilson. I'm with you on the Herbie. Keenan's always been a monster in fantasy, but he's too damn slow, and I can never pick him, and I always end up regretting it. So you're probably right. All right, guys, just as a reminder, you have to like the stream, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and then just comment. Once you do that, you're good to be entered into the free break. All right, so we'll go on to running backs. Again, guys, I don't remember a year where every one is an absolute slam dunk. If you're not taking them as the one, stop fantasy and do something different. So our first two are the same. Also, Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook he's the best true running back for fantasy. Henry's. I'll go through my list. Cook, I have Zeke. I think this is Zeke's redemption year. I think Zeke has one more year after this at top flight fantasy production. Then I think you start seeing that, 28, 27-year-old running back dip that you always see from every running back for the last 10 years. I got Jonathan Taylor at 4. I think that's a team with their quarterback uncertainty. I do think Wentz is going to be ready for week 1. I think they're going to lean heavily on that defense and the running game, and I think that adds up to a lot of catches for him. He has a pretty weak schedule. One of the things you see on here is strength of schedule on Fantasy Pros. Let me pull it up there so you can see it. He's a 6.4, right around a 4.8 is the average. So he's a little weaker schedule on what they perceive as their run game defense. The guy that I had as my I had Harris. He's well outside of it. And the reason that I done this, I had Najee Harris as my 5. I think Najee Harris, if we're really wanting to place money, where I really think he'll finish up, it's probably somewhere around 3 or 4. But there's no takesy backs on this because we'll talk about this predictions throughout the season. And but I mean, it's Pittsburgh, right? Like, he's going to get 50 to 60 catches. 250 to 280 touches a year. I just think Najee is, if he's not in your first round in some form of keeper league, then evaluate what you're doing, because he's a guy for the next 3 or 4 years is going to eat up touches, get catches. Just look at Le'Veon Bell. What was the guy from Pittsburgh? They traded him away. Their first couple years, they just been monsters. So. And then as my sleeper, I had Damian Harris. This is basically all because of Sonny Michel being traded. It does clear up the backfield a little bit. Damian he's probably their most complete back. What was the guy's name from Oklahoma, the great big back that they drafted?
Tremont Henderson or something like that.
Yep. I know it's Tremont, but anyways, that guy's probably going to get a few of the goal line carries, but it's New England, especially if Cam's in there. They're going to be running the ball 40, 45 times a game in some form or the other. So I have Damian outside the top 10. He's actually 28th. So I think he makes it into the top 10. I think that he gets those passes. He's unequivocally the third down back. And I think he's going to see enough of first and second down and enough goal line to really, really elevate him. There's no way with Sonny Michel being there that I would have picked him. But with him being gone, I do think it cleared up that backfield. So what you got, Chuck?
Yep. Well, Jason Lawless is there getting us the names. It's from Andre Stevenson will be the backup probably now. He's looked good in the preseason. He's definitely played his way on.
He's a monster.
So, thanks for getting that name for us. We don't get paid for this. That's why we may not know all the names. Richard Wilson, I'm right there with you. I'm curious why Elliott is on top 5 list. I don't think he makes it through another year. I personally think Dak won't make it through the year. then they're going to crowd the boxes, and it's going to be tough running for Dallas and Ezekiel Elliott. But yeah, we're right on line there. CMC and Cook 1-2. I think Henry, they're just going to continue. I think this will probably be his last hurrah. You know, man's led the league in carries and yards the past 2 years. I think he's probably going to have a little bit less carries because I think just having Julio there is going to help with the pass game a bit, but that can also open up things for Henry. They can't stack the box all the time like they have in the past. I think Kamara is going to bounce back. He had a relatively down year for him last year. At least it definitely felt that way as a Kamara owner. But I think with not having a Drew Brees, he was out most of the year, and then not a running quarterback in that didn't, for some reason, he just would not check it down to Kamara like you normally would. So I think with Jameis at the helm, it's going to be a lot better for Kamara this year. And then with 5 there, I got Taylor. A lot of people have been fading Taylor, mostly due to Carson Wentz being hurt. It looks like he's going to be back. We all know he's not going to last another year. But they have some capable backups there. I think Jonathan Taylor does enough to stay in the top 5. And then my top sleeper to go, top 10 that's currently outside of that, my Gaskin from Miami. I think he's 20 plus. He's shown that he can catch the ball. Had some great games last year, so I think he's got enough. I think that Miami offense is going to be better. I think Tua takes a step forward from where he was last year. Got to remember he was coming off of a hip injury, things that put Bo Jackson out of the league and takes a while to get over. He's just now at a point that he's a year and a half over that. So I'm with you on Najee. I think he's definitely going to be a top 10 back, if not higher. He definitely can be a Le'Veon Bell type. I just think Ben is at the bottom of the barrel as far as what he's got. Unless if he can chuck it down the field constantly and keep defenses honest, then I think he has that potential. But yeah, we'll see. I'm trying to get as much Najee as I can as well.
You pick after me, right?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, well. He'll never be there anyways.
Yeah, I don't know. There's in my league, there's some keepers that are being skipped over. There's going to be Jonathan Taylor out there. There's going to be Derrick Henry out there, but still, he probably goes top 5 right before you pick at 7. So you're right.
We need them Cowboys there. All right, looks like you got Gaskin. Going Gaskin as your sleeper.
Yeah, that's my sleeper there. Like I said, I think Miami's offense is going to be much improved compared to what it was. I think Tua takes a step forward in passing game, and that's going to open up things for Gaskin. He's a great catcher out of the backfield as well.
All right, we'll go through a little bit of the comments here as far as running back goes. Mr. Wilson's talking Chubb should be at 9. Yeah, I don't have no problem with Chubb being at 9, maybe even higher than that. Yeah, well, they got him at 10 on Fantasy Pros. Allen Robinson, I don't know if we're just
Chubb, I said in the chat earlier, this is PPR. He loses some ground in PPR, and then also splitting with Kareem Hunt. I don't think he's definitely not going to be a top 5 PPR back. He potentially can get into top 10 for sure. We do, Chung Wei. We've allowed draft pick trades for a few years now.
Well, welcome to the league, Chung Wei. All right, it's Najee Harris, Rookie of the Year potential. Yeah, I just think there's too many quarterbacks. I could easily see this being the greatest quarterback draft in NFL history. I wouldn't have said that 2 weeks ago before Zach Wilson didn't look like an absolute disaster. But I think everybody knows how talented Trevor Lawrence is. I mean, there's always, when you're making comments like that, there's always variables. But Justin Fields looks like the real deal. Zach Wilson looks real. Like, I know Chuck will never admit it, but out of that first round pick right now, his boy looks probably the least of the five, and he's probably starting by week 5 or 6. Um, so
I'm sorry. The
you're,
least five is, you think is below Mac Jones?
I think Mac Jones. If we're basing it off preseason performance, who do you think's look better? Don't take take the 49ers outfit off. Who do you think looks the best?
Out of the five, I would have to say that Zach Wilson looked the best, especially out of this past weekend. You know, it was Justin Fields week one. I think that Mac Jones has dinked and dunked the majority of his passes around. So that's why I'm not as big on him.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about the greatest. So it's not like I'm killing him. I'm just saying that out of those five, right now, I believe he's not performed as well as the other four have, and I think that's completely fair. I know that Homer outfit ain't gonna let you see it, but shut up, Chung-Wei. God, it's cause he's white, ain't it, Chung-Wei? Mac Jones, Mac Jones. If I was ranking them, it would be Zach Wilson, Justin. How they played this preseason is not who I think is going to be the best, but Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Trevor, Mac, and Lance. That would be how I would rank the five. Now I am talking about, them that. I mean, there's so much talent in that group, right? Like that's could easily, as far as group wise, be the most talented quarterback class ever.
So
Then you're not.
we've got a whole segment on this.
Yeah. So you're not even talking about, Kyle Trask, Ian Book, those guys that in a couple years are going to be starting. So, all right, let me finish reading through the list here. As far as Facebook side, got to his. Yeah, the Jags O line is terrible. We've.
Terrible.
Yeah. He's got Williams as a sleeper. I would rate Najee higher. Chung-Wei said I would rate Najee higher than Saquon. Gettleman's line still bad, and Saquon has injury concerns. Thank you, Captain Obvious.
I think we're all there, all in agreement. We don't see Saquon on the list, Chung-Wei.
Mr. Hill's talking about Kamara going off. Yeah, that's just. I mean, it can't be me that seems to think that there's a little bit of dysfunction or disconnection, almost kind of like the Pittsburgh was a few years ago when they had Bell and Brown. Because you see what's going on with can't guard Mike Kamara. I just feel like maybe there's a little bit of. You've been here for a long time, and I've been here for a long time, and we're kind of growing tired of each other's shit. So I mean, Mike waited to what, like 2 weeks before the season started. It's like, oh yeah, I got to have surgery now. And
Right.
Sean Payton's like, what the are you doing? Like, what is this? So kind of my thoughts on the running backs there. We'll get into tight ends now.
You wish you could.
Yeah, we can. All right. So this was probably the first time we had a break from it, and it would have been, you could have easily rocked Kels, but I went with Waller first just because he's a wide receiver and nobody's told the fantasy league people. I can't. I think I was reading one thing that he lined up in a tight end formation in a down set like 17% of the time. It was like by far and away the lowest in the league. So this guy's a wide receiver. So he's going to get those targets. He's big. He's athletic. He's all those things. So then I went Kittle second. I need Kittle to step it up for me last year. We were cruising. Until Kittle went down, then we didn't. We had built up enough of a lead that it really didn't matter. Got us there, but we kind of limped into the playoffs, having too many holes on our roster. Kels, I mean, the only thing that bothers me about these chefs is there's so many weapons and there's only one ball. So it does scare me a little bit when you get into having four of the best receivers in the NFL, two good running backs. I mean, it's tough to bet on him week in and week out, but in the past he's always delivered. Andrews, I think last year he was down a little bit compared to what he was the previous year, but I think he gets back to that form. Um, Higbee is a guy that with Stafford there, Everett's out. Um, I think he could be that kind of boom bust guy. Higbee may be outside. Yeah, Higbee's outside the top 10. He's actually 11th on Fantasy Pros. And he's got, and another one of the things that they do is like their expert ratings versus average draft position. So he's a +2. So that means that they're rating him higher than he's potentially being drafted. So he could be a good 4th round, 5th round tight end for you to pick up. And I think everything culminates to him having a huge season. I think he's got a real quarterback. I think it's not crowded back there. I think there's some uncertainties in the running game. Which is why they went and got Sonny Michel. So I think Higbee could really have a big season. And the next one is one that I kind of debated. One thing that I heard, I think Sunday, driving on the way home, I had my fantasy shows on, listening to them. They said that there has never been a tight end drafted which he wasn't drafted. He was 2nd round, but it just goes to show you how tough it is for rookies to crack that top 10. There's never been a fantasy wide receiver drafted in the 1st round that finished the season in the top 10 in fantasy football. It's never happened. Now you've seen guys have that 2nd year, Waller, those guys just absolutely blow up in their 2nd year. But that 1st year, I'm not sure if it's because of the offensive line plays that they have to make, all those things. It's tough, but Freiermuth does have the nickname of Baby Gronk. And in the preseason, he's been dynamic. He's been phenomenal in the preseason. He's been Ben's go-to weapon he's been both quarterbacks, cricket head and bathroom stall. He's been their go-to options. I really like Freiermuth, but the one that I'm really big on, one that I am absolutely going to try to land in all my leagues, is Higbee. A couple of my leagues, I'm actually really set up well in tight ends. Hey yo. But what say you, Chuck?
Yeah, we got I think Kelsey is going to be Kelsey. He's been tied in one, 3 or 4 out of the past 4 or 5 years. And the year that he wasn't, he was tied into. I think that was Kittle's big year a couple years back. I know they've got a lot of mouths to feed, but I know Patrick relies on Kelsey to get open. So we'll see. Totally agree with Waller. Rode him to a championship in another league I was in. He's just a monster out there. Kittle, love the guy. I just hope he can stay healthy. The play action and his ability to break tackles and get yards after contact is pretty much unmatched among these guys. So if he can stay healthy, he has the potential to get up to top 2, top 1. So we'll see. I think Hockenson in Detroit, they're going to be a bad team. They're going to be throwing a lot. Goff hasn't had a good tight end really outside of Jared Cook in his days with the Rams. So I think he's going to get a lot of looks. They're down a wide receiver with Galladay going to the Giants, I believe, in Detroit. So he's going to soak up some more targets there. Pitts, you're right. I think Gronk may have had the best rookie season ever, and it was still only like 700 or 800 yards. But if you think Waller is a wide receiver that nobody's told him that they're not really a tight end, Pitts is that times 2. And then with Julio being gone, he's going to be 2nd in targets on that team, and has the potential to have a 1,000-yard, 7-8 touchdown season, which would definitely plant him in the top 5. Top 10, Irv Smith, he's rated a little bit higher there on Fantasy Pros. I've seen him, in that 15 to 20 rank, but he started to come on late for the Vikings last year. I think he's going to get some targets from those Vikings again. Not going to be the best team. I think they're going to be playing from behind in a few games. So I think that he's definitely got that opportunity to be up there, top 10 tight end. It's just such a drop from those top three to the next tier. And then, that tier two they have, then it's going to be a big drop down to the next tier. So if you don't get an opportunity to draft those top three there, I would say, probably punt it until later rounds. But that's just me. That's usually been my drafting strategy when it comes to tight ends.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I just Pitts. It's. I mean, Copper, Mel Copper, um, labeled him as the best athlete that he's ever seen at a position. So, I mean, that's the guy's been around for a while. So he is an absolute freak of nature. Again, he's the most athletic version of Shannon Sharp that I've ever seen. He built just like Sharp was, but Sharp never run up 4.4 anything, 20-yard line, let alone that. So, all right, so we kind of went through top rookies. A lot of league rookies hold a little more value, especially when you can get them in that probably 10 to at 10, 15, 16 range. Dynasty, redraft, keeper leagues. Rookies do hold a little more weight. So I'll kind of go through my list. I've talked about if Najee's a top 3 running back on the year, I wouldn't be surprised. So there's no way I don't have him number 1. Williams was. I like Williams, and I almost went with Carter ahead of him, which pains me to say, but I just think Williams ends up as the primary back there in Denver. And I don't know what other options they really have. And I think he's getting the bulk of the goal line. Was it Font? The tight end out there. I think maybe he takes some of them away, but I think Williams is really good, especially. I mean, I could see taking him pretty early in the draft.
Yeah, 4th, 5th round potentially, especially in keeper leagues.
Yeah, another one that pains me to brag on any Tar Heel ever, but Carter's probably been outside of a guy I'll get to at the end. Carter's probably looked the best. No, Evan Ingram is 4 years removed from being a good tight end.
That is one going back to the top 10. He could slip. He's like 20th tight end off the board. Yeah. He could get in the top 10.
But then I had is it Michael Carter, the running back from Carolina, went to the Jets. He's a great receiving back. He doesn't. And one thing that I really liked about him, he split. I don't recall the other running back they had that was a draft pick, but they split carry, so the guy doesn't have a lot of tread on the tire. He's a good receiver. I think he's a type of guy. Zach Wilson's mobility and speed, and you see this with every mobile quarterback, it creates stress on those outside linebackers, stopping them from collapsing. And I think it does open up a lot of things for these running backs. So I think Carter could have a big season. The Sermon, the generic version, I know that's a crowded backfield there, but the 49ers, it's no secret, they're going to rely heavily on the run. I went Fields as my top quarterback simply because the running game option. In fantasy, or in a dynasty league or a keeper league, I may look to him pretty early because I think you could be talking about a better version of Kyler Murray by next year. Again, I don't think he's going to light up the league, but you got a guy that's going to rush for 700 yards and 6 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns. That's a massive, massive, massive advantage in fantasy football. Those rushing yards, it can be huge. Devontae Smith was my outside the top 10, ends up in the top 10. I mean, I kind of won over all that as far as I think he's that perfect slot PPR, kind of that, not the jump ball Randy Moss, but Randy Moss had that slight build that allowed him to get into position to always just seem like they were open and you just could never hit them. I think Trevor figures it out. I don't know that the coaching staff does. Trevor is a decade talent. Like guys like that talented mentally, all the whole package don't come. The last one 10 years ago, 12 years ago, they just don't come across that often. Waddle, Tua, I've talked about this a lot last year when we were opening cards. That guy had one of the worst injuries that I recall a quarterback having. And that stuff is in their head. I don't care what they say until they take the hits, till they get the rep. I thought the coaching staff mishandled him. I don't think he should have never played a snap last year. That was my opinion on him, and I think that we'll figure it out. Can he mentally come back from that, or did they basically ruin his career? I think if he comes back from that, I think he's the most accurate college quarterback that I've ever seen. Now, he never wowed you with his arm talent, but he would literally pick people apart at Alabama. So I think Waddle benefits from that. A bit of a homer pick here, but if you watch the same guy I have, Chuba has been one of the better, probably their best. Him and Shy has probably been there too. Well, Marshall's been dominant too, but Chuba's been a workhorse. We don't. If there's a concern about Christian, is Christian got 300 carries for a couple years, and he's slotted Bill. So somebody's going to get the work. Somebody's going to get those carries. I don't think that they try to put him in a situation where he's touching the ball 30 times every game. I think you see him. I think you see a lot more subbing with Hubbard this year, which gives him, in my opinion, a lot of value. And he's a good all-around back. He's a good catching back. He's a good third down back. He picks up the block well. And for my last one, I had Stevenson. So, Chuck, what say you?
Yeah, and I guess I kind of went into a frame of thought of dynasty keeper league here, and probably shouldn't have faded Carter off here. Maybe should have faded Waddle or somebody else and let Carter get on there because we agreed on those top two. I agree Carter is going to be good. I just think this pretty crowded backfield. Though I think that they're going to have similar thoughts on the run game as the Niners did. Of course, they got their D coordinator Saleh to be the head coach. He also brought along their offensive coordinator, and as his offensive coordinator, not McVay, LaFleur. No, it's not it either. Anyways, but I think he has the opportunity to be running into the ground early on too. So it depends on how much they rotate that. I had Pitts there. I think he's the real deal and has the potential to be better than any rookie wide receiver in the class as well. Chase has has not had the best of camps, but he's shown that he can be, one of the best wide receivers in all of college football, reunited with Burrows. I think that they're also going to be a bad team as long as Burrows can stay alive and not hurt and get rid of his case of the yips. He has the chance to be the top wide receiver. Homer, and again, I think Trey Lance is the real deal. He just makes some throws that some of these guys can't, along with the legs. Has a Cam Newton type build, but a little bit more nimble, I would think. Again, I think he starts at some point this year, probably due to a Jimmy G injury. But then Trevor and Fields, I think those guys. I think Trevor Lawrence will have the best QB rookie campaign this year total because he's just starting from the first. Maybe Wilson can eclipse him there. Fields, we talked about him, and Devonta. I think he ended up in a good place. That's going to be, they're also going to be playing from behind. And Jalen has played with him before. Jalen Hurts, Waddle, same thing there. Played with Tua. I think there's going to be instant chemistry and a better overall team. And I think Trey Sermon, like you said, yeah, Niners rely on the run game, and every year at least one or two of their running backs miss a few games. So they're going to have plenty to rotate through. I think Sermon, probably gets 5, 6, 700 yards and a handful or two of touchdowns. He's more of a power back than Mostert is as well. So once they get down into the goal line situations, they may lean on him a little bit. So.
All right, we got skipped over the comments there on the. Sorry, let me pull it up here. All right, so Chad's wanting us to do Super Bowl picks. We'll do that at the end, Chad. Rich is excited. I will say, Rich, this is the most excited I remember being about a football season the last 4 or 5 years. Last year, I just seemingly never really got into it. I don't know, if it was the whole COVID lull and like there was no sports for like 4 months, and all of a sudden there was nothing but sports from like 6 a.m. and maybe I burnt myself out. But it's as excited as I've been about a football season in a long time. So I'm definitely glad it's going to be back. I hope I can catch a couple Panthers game this year in person, but I'm sure all this looks like heading back for a some form of restriction. So Chad likes Hawkinson should have went with Stafford. Well, I don't know if they would have approved that, but Ingram. All right, so we got to the Ingram comment. All right, so we'll go on to formats. Just kind of what's your favorite formats? We'll kind of get everybody's opinion and just see if anybody had questions about kind of how they work. Standard. I mean, it kind of is what it is. PPR is point per reception, and there is half point PPRs. Keeper. I'm trying to remember how keeper is defined. Keeper is kind of like a tiered system, like your X picks, like your top 5, 4 picks. You can keep X amount. Then maybe like your next 3 or 4 picks, you can keep so many players. Then after that, it'll kind of open up. There's at the most I've seen in most keeper leagues, there's like 4. In a true dynasty league, I'm pretty sure it's all players. I don't think I've ever played in a dynasty league, but I think it's all players remain. Yeah, I'm pulled it up here. All players are maintained from year to year. So basically, whatever your roster size is, you keep them. There's I'm sure any type of rookies, any of that stuff. So all that stuff would be magnified even more drafting rookies. Yeah, redraft league is basically a PPR, so everything's redrafted. I'll let Chuck go through the super flex because I know he's in a couple. It's been a while since I've done one. I'll kind of go through best ball, or unless you want me to.
No, you're good.
Take
I've actually never been in a super flex, but I am this year super excited for it. I'm in a dynasty super flex, first time really for both of those. So yeah, you're going to have super flex. And it can be defined. Normally, when people say super flex, they also mean 2 QB. You technically could have a super flex and have multiple flex positions, but normally you're going to have at least another flex position that also allows a QB, and then also potentially in the one I'm in, there is 1 QB, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 2 flex spots, and then the super flex spot that will be allowed a QB. So not really a tight end position in this league, which if I'm not in a good position to take one of those top 3, I'm saying, F it, and I'm not going to get a tight end unless it's just a crazy value, Hawkinson and, later rounds or something like that. But I'm super excited about that just because it's different. I got the 4th pick there. I'm afraid that it's going to go QB, and I'm going to be not stuck taking Christian McCaffrey, but I'd rather have one of the top tier quarterbacks to start out with. That way, not playing behind there. It's just that they do, having two of them, having two top tier talents is going to definitely help your point totals. Obviously, you give up some depth along the way, but definitely excited about that super flex.
Best ball is probably the simplest of all of them. It's whatever your team is, whatever format you're in, whoever scores the most points is automatically inserted into your lineup, based on your position, right? Like if it's a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, flex, whatever you had on those roster. If you had three quarterbacks, whoever scored the most of those three quarterbacks goes to your quarterback spot. I like best ball. I'm actually in a best ball league. It's like if you're pretty limited on time, which I know most people are. So it's a good league. It's actually a good league to kind of. It's not been around for that long, but it's a good league if you're wanting to learn fantasy and kind of get into it. I think it's a really good league to get into. It's pretty simple, like I said, it's just you don't have to fix your lineup. You don't have to, none of that stuff. It's whoever the best player is automatically subbed into it. One I was talking about earlier is next year, I'm absolutely going to do a handicap. Hopefully it's an East Coast break handicap league. So you guys be checking, you got a year to figure it out. But it looks like a lot of fun. It tries to even the playing field where everybody's the same as everyone. Then it's just kind of based on, it's more your opinion than it is anything or what you think this player is going to do from week to week. So it kind of takes that, kind of like that draft capital, like on a FanDuel's or DraftKings. And then it'll allow you to go through that. So it kind of sets their value at an X amount, and then they have to score so many more points to get over that threshold. Then that's before they get into points. So a player like Chuba Hubbard, because he's somebody that's going to be in a negative, potentially a negative, he's going to start with plus points. That's where McCaffrey's going to score like 17, 18 points to be even. So those guys are really, really tough. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of digging into it, basing it off your projections, your opinion, your point, stuff like that. Kind of read through some of the comments here. Rich said he's only been in a standard. Rich, you're going to have to become cultured in the ways of fantasy. If you get in some leagues, man, if you need, I'll talk fantasy football with you as long as you want to talk about it. So if you need some help on it, I think PPR is kind of the standard now. I don't know of too many leagues that are not. Myles Garrett is going to win the Super Bowl and beat up Jake and Logan Paul at halftime. He probably could. Well, probably not, but
it depends on if he's got his helmet or not.
Yeah. So, let's see, same here. Excited over it. PPR. Chad, you in a PPR, Chad? Chad? All right, guys. Don't forget that if you haven't liked, you haven't followed, and you've been commenting, you've been following along, you have to go ahead and do that. If it's not, then it'll be discontinued. If we have to go back into it, find some people to add to it. If it didn't, I'm pretty sure we're close to the 30. I appreciate all the people that showed up. We've averaged almost 60 viewers on Facebook. So that's pretty cool to see. I think on YouTube, we're right around 14 or 15. I haven't checked Twitch. It'd be cool if we're around 100 total. How many people are on Twitch? 9 on Twitch. That's a record for us by 8 on Twitch. So that's a positive. So
it's good stuff.
Yeah, Jeff.
About 80.
Yeah, so it's pretty good. I appreciate it. I think last year we averaged 20 or 20, which was nice also, but we kind of had a little more understanding. Like I said, Zoom did make it easier, so we didn't have kind of I think last year I clanged on a beer bottle for the first 20 minutes. So I appreciate it, guys. And I'm thinking about just setting up a quick PPR league just for East Coast break people, and doing a giveaway at the end of the year. But I don't want to my only concern is I don't want people in here is like, well, I ain't finishing first. I'm never checking the team again. So just kind of make it competitive fun for some of the Asian number one customers. Just do a free league with some sort of reward at the end. All right, guys.
What's your Super Bowl pick, Scotty?
Super Bowl pick. I'm going. Well, give me a second. I really thought about this. You'll take it and give me time to prepare.
Sure. Yeah, I'm going like it's 1989, 1990, 91, 92. I'm going to go Niners Bills. Obviously, I think the Niners had a horrible year last year as far as record and also injuries. I don't know of any other team that was hit by the injury bug quite as bad as they were. If they can stay healthy, I think they're on paper a better team than they were in 2019 when they made the Super Bowl, leading the Super Bowl with 5 minutes to go. And I think the Bills also continue to get better on both sides of the ball and finally dethrone the Chiefs of the AFC crown and be battling like it's 1989, and it's going to be Niners 24, Bills 17.
Still no better place here. I mean, it's the Chiefs, right? Like I think, but I don't want to take the layup here. Mr.
Take
Hills,
the layup and get somebody different from the NFC.
Chiefs and get redemption against the Bucks. I think the Bucks, everything. I'm gonna go Green Bay. I'm gonna take Green Bay and the Chiefs. And I'm taking Green Bay to win the Super Bowl. Because again, I mean, if we're looking at it, who do you think should have won the game between the Bucks and Green Bay? Chiefs weren't going to win it last year. Their line was decimated. The same thing would have happened if they would have played Green Bay.
Yeah.
So I think there's no better version of Aaron Rodgers than a pissed off, focused version of Aaron Rodgers. So I'm thinking it's Aaron Rodgers. I think the Green Bay Packers win it. So that's going to be my pick. I'm going to stick with it. So another thing I was going to bring up. So I'm going to it'd be nice if we could do a show like this, maybe 30, 40 minutes, maybe talk about fantasy football and a couple of what we believe to be pick'em layups. One of the bet props that I seen was the over under on Patrick Mahomes was 39.5. I think it's gone up to 40 now for touchdowns on the season. Now I get injuries and all that, but I don't know of any more betting layups that I've ever seen in my life than that.
Right.
I mean, that's literally, and yeah, you could talk about, well, they're going to have it locked up by week 14. I mean, still, yeah, you're talking about a guy only having an average 2.3 touchdowns, and I mean,
And
a
there's
guy
an
could be
extra
there.
game.
Yeah, and a guy could be there by week 12 realistically. I mean, I feel like that's I'll get the link. I'll throw it in on the stream for that betting prop. So how would you guys feel about us doing like a pick 'em, pick like 3 games or 3 locks? I mean, kind of keeping track of who we think for the year.
Get our records going.
Yep, and we could Chung, and a kind of a little secret in my betting world. Let Chung Wei pick and take whoever, take the other. Because, I mean, I let him win, I think, the college playoff. He won that one, and now he's on like a 9-game losing streak. So you ride that horse, and you ride that horse, okay? All right, guys, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. We were trying to keep it around the hour. We're about a minute or two over. So I do appreciate it. A few update on some of the breaks. The certified, we sold out, plus sold accidentally an additional 6 slots. I believe we've sold 1 since then. So we got 7 slots sold. Leaves us with 25. So we're 25 on that. The Donruss Optic break, Panini delayed it. It was supposed to be out Friday. Panini delayed it to September the 17th. And they sent because I went in to check and to go ahead and order it. and I seen that, and they'd sent it like 20 minutes before that it was actually supposed to ship. That had been delayed for 3 weeks. So certified's down to 25. That'll be the next thing that actually breaks. I'm gonna put up a basketball one. I try to keep one up of each. So I do appreciate it, guys. Really, I do. I was hoping that we could get to maybe 30, 35. And we're like almost triple that at this point. So I do appreciate it. Thank you guys for showing up. I seen we hit 13 viewers on Twitch. I've literally never seen more than one person on Twitch. So I don't know. Maybe it was our Fantasy Pro share or FanDuels or whatever it was. So I appreciate it, guys. Thank you, guys. I'll let Chuck say what he came to say. So
Yeah, thanks, guys. It was been fun getting the itch to get back on these. Thanks for everybody that hopped on and listened to us talk about who we think's going to be the best. Well, maybe in one of these future shows, we'll check back in on some of these top 5 picks and see where our picks are slotting. So, but it's been fun. Hope you guys have a great night.
all right. Chad says, "Go Niners, Chuck." All right. Appreciate it. Hugs and kisses.